looking for something. A new way, a new understanding, a connection, some comfort. You've got questions, and Light on Living puts the spotlight on all the answers so you can shine. Lift and lighten the load of life's challenges and learn simple and easy ways to live a healthy, happy life. You'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you. You're invited to hear new, see different, and feel more as Lisa shines the light on living.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Light on Living. I'm your host, Lisa Berry, and we are continuing on our basically our entire spotlight interview on the book, What's Balance Got to Do with It? And this has been yet another book that Heather Andrews has compiled with incredible co-authors. And I have one here with me today. And I have to tell you guys, based on the response from the Facebook Live that I do an hour before the show, so 11 a.m. Eastern Time, this topic seems to really be one that everyone is connecting with, which is a sad thing and a great thing all at the same time, because it is about asking for help, but when we're in pain. So a lot came up around pain, and I am going to actually jump into introducing my first co-author, well, my only co-author for today, because she's with me for the whole hour. That's how big this is. Susannah, I'm just going to share with the reader, the listeners, I keep getting those two mixed up, who you are, and we are going to get some help for these people. Okay? So,
Sounds good.
Oh, great. Okay, well, everybody, this is Susannah Juteau, and she's a registered dietitian who specializes in headache nutrition. I hope you guys heard that. That's a big one. She has a bachelor's degree in neuroscience and a master's in nutrition and dietetics from McGill University. Somewhat ironically, her study of the brain seems to have foreshadowed her own health challenges, which resulted in a 10-hour brain surgery to remove a benign tumor the size of a ping pong ball. Post-surgery, she struggled for years with her mindset, energy levels, and constant headaches. And finally, after resigning from her job and moving to California, nice, she began experimenting with therapeutic fasting. 16 weeks in, she was off her headache meds completely and back to her usual body weight, and then energized like never before. So today, of course, you can only imagine, she teaches others how to overcome their migraines naturally. Welcome, Susannah. This is incredible.
Thank you. Well, it's great that you have this space for everyone to really connect and have some of these deeper conversations. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. You know, I love that you said deeper conversations, because going beyond the chapter is a deeper conversation. And I was mentioning this on my live, like I was reading your chapter and it was beautiful. It was perfect. It was wonderful. But then I was like, oh my gosh, I have this question and I have that question and I want to know more about this. And so,
absolutely.
And I'm assuming that's what, like there's so many others. I'm coming from personal experience. I talk about my sister all the time on the show. She suffers from migraines every day for like decades. It's almost like unimaginable, but so many people are having these chronic things. I'll get you to just start by sharing, the bulk of the chapter, and I kind of said it in your intro there, but how were migraines something you had before knowing about the tumor? Can you just walk us through up to the tumor and knowing what happened?
Yes. So there was a day where I was skiing with some friends, and I hit my head skiing. So this was a few months before being diagnosed with the tumor. So I hit my head skiing, but was totally fine, just kept on going, never thought anything of it. I've been always very active with different sports. And so something like that, it wasn't a hard hit or anything. And then I had a few days of normalcy, and then all of a sudden started getting some really bad headaches, dizziness, vertigo, like ringing in the ears. And so going to the doctor, we just kind of figured, okay, well, this must be a concussion because you did hit your head. Odd that you didn't get symptoms right away. And so we just thought, let's follow the typical concussion protocol. Right. And for months we tried to do that, but things just kept getting worse. And every day they just get worse and worse. And my doctor would say, like try to return to work, and I'd say, what is that supposed to mean? Like, when am I supposed to return to work? And so I just kept trying to go back and then take a week off. And it was just this constant battle. And then I just had to keep advocating for myself and keep saying, okay, this is not normal. This is not a concussion, because things are just getting worse and worse. Like, I'm becoming less and less functional, and taking time off isn't making any difference.
Right.
So
you weren't able to make any kind of like, was there any kind of, I don't want to say relief, but it wasn't like you thought, oh my gosh, is work making me, having this problem, because it wasn't getting better?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because usually if you take time off work, you're fine while you're off work. That it's the additional stress of being at work and having to perform, and not being able to sleep as long as you want and kind of relax at home. But then even when I take those days off, nothing improved. So I just knew inside, I was like, there's something more to this. So I had to keep pushing for them to really look into it and to give me an MRI. So usually with the concussion protocol, they don't give an MRI for the first 3 months until they suspect that there might be something more.
Right.
And so in this case, it was kind of a month and a half in, and they finally said, okay, well, let's look into this a bit more. And that's where they found the brain tumor, and they had to act very quickly.
Okay. Now, quick question. Was the accident, it caused the tumor story, or because did you already have the tumor and then the accident kind of, will we ever know?
Well, so the accident did not cause the brain tumor. It was always there. It was just slowly building over time. And what they think is that having hit my head, it just triggered it basically triggered the migraine pathway and started those headaches, because it's like my brain was covering for it the whole time. So all those symptoms all just came up all at once. Whereas for some people, it might happen like more gradually.
Okay. This is so. Okay, so this is an important question right here. So here you are, you're living your life. You didn't have headaches. You had other things. You were fatigued. What were some of the things before the migraine?
Yeah. So to be honest, before that hit to the head, I didn't have much. I mean, I had headaches here and there, but I always just thought they were kind of same as anyone else, and they probably were in that spectrum of you get a headache here and there, maybe once a week, and you can take an Advil and it'd be fine. But once this hit, then it just put it into that next level.
Okay, so that was, I want to know, so when people are listening, you were you couldn't have asked for help before, because you didn't need help before on that one. You just had your own, your own. How was your own prior to this? Because you didn't know about this before. How was your own attitude about asking for help with anything, just like regular people?
Yes. No. I think this is common for everyone to be a lone wolf, especially when it comes to pain. But I have a history of odd things happening to me, I guess, as a child. So when I was 4, I was bit by 2 dogs where my ear was bit off, and I have a deep scar in my cheek. But that happened when I was 4 years old. So I learned pretty young to, I guess, cover for, you're in the hospital and everyone's coming to visit and everyone's so worried about you that you really want to, you learn at a young age how to put on a bit of a show so people don't worry about you. And then as I grew up, there was numerous other things that happened to me. I had this rare bone disorder where just holes would form in my bones as I was growing. So I'd have a hole form in my ankle, for instance, and then I'd have to be put in a cast for a couple of months while it healed, and then it would happen in my shoulders, and then it would happen. So all these different kind of body parts. And so I was constantly in the hospital because they were trying to figure out what this was, and it took them several years to figure out what it was. I actually don't even know the name of it anymore, but yeah.
Oh gosh, did you get? Is it more like you were just tired of asking for help, or you got good at it? Well, yeah, was there one or the other?
I'd say I just wanted to be normal. I didn't want to stand out at school. I didn't want to be that kid that always had a cat and people asked like what was going on, or like as adults we don't tend to pry, or we don't ask questions, about my scar on my face. Like in elementary school and high school, that was, anytime someone would meet me, they'd say, "Oh, how'd you get the scar on your face?" And I could quickly tell them, and I actually really appreciated that people would be upfront. And since being an adult, no one has ever asked me once, so I know that question is often there.
Okay, that's actually really big. Yes, about fitting in. That's actually what an awareness right there. And I thank you for being so honest and sharing that. Like, I wish they would just ask me now, because you're sitting there going, do they know? Do they want to know? Are they looking? They're going, oh God, should I ask her? Should I not? I don't want to offend her. And this awkward, silent conversation. If you just go, hey, so just for fun, if I just met you and I didn't know you and we're at a party together, so a baby shower or whatever, and like, should I just come? What is a comfortable way for people to ask? How would you want it to have been asked?
Yeah, so for me, it doesn't matter. For me, like, I love when people ask that question because it brings out some curiosity. It kind of opens up some conversations that are more than that, the initial, like, how are you? What do you do? That we do when we first meet someone, so that you can kind of get into more someone's like unique history, and then in return I can ask about kind of more deeper questions about their lives too. So it just kind of initiates that conversation a lot easier. So for me, I'm very open, and I love when people ask. Yeah, it's so rare, but I understand that there's that question of, is this something that someone has overcome, or is it still a painful topic that they might start crying, or it's hard to ask those questions as an adult. But as kids, we have no filter. So.
Oh, I know. I always get nervous, like, I'm going to see, my little nieces or something, because I think they are so going to ask me about this or that. And I get my answer ready. But that is good to know. So it's really more about the person asking if their comfort level. Because if I came across like almost like, not judgy, but like, if I already think you're going to be uncomfortable, then I'm going to be uncomfortable. So if we want to talk about these things and reach out to say, just be really comfortable about it and meet the person where they are, kind of thing. Okay, I love that. Thank you. Yeah,
it's really about coming from a place of curiosity, where it's just like, hey, I'd love to hear your story and learn a bit more about you. And just, to me, that's really, it's like, it's opening up a space to have, a more meaningful conversation. And to me, that's really kind of a generous approach, is to be okay with being a little bit uncomfortable if it does swing that way.
Right. Okay. That is so awesome to have that help. And so I know it, because what listeners are thinking, okay, the big thing this morning was like, how do we ask for this help? So here you are now. Clearly, I've got this diagnosis. I've got a brain tumor. And did you have somebody with you when you received the news?
Not when I received the news. My parents were well aware that, like, I wasn't able to work and that something was going on, and they were familiar with that. So actually, as soon as I got the news, I texted my dad. I was like, "Oh, apparently I have a brain tumor. At least it's not in my head." That's what I wrote to him, because you go through all those moments that it's like, am I just imagining things? Like, should I just be dealing with this pain and going to work anyways? And all these things kind of go through your mind, that it's like, is it psychological? Because that's kind of, a lot of doctors kind of give that impression that it's like, go back to work whenever. And it almost felt like a non-issue. And meanwhile, I knew that something bigger was happening. So.
Right. So it was very good of your humor. That was good. It's an icebreaker for sure. And did you know at that time, like, oh wow, I've got to go through this. I'm gonna need some help. Were you open to and knew that you had help around you for this next thing?
Yes, it's interesting. So even with my history in neuroscience at that point, I just wanted nothing. I didn't want to make any decisions, and I didn't want to read up anything about it because there's this intense fear that as soon as you hear you have to undergo brain surgery, that there's just this huge fear around it. I had been with my then boyfriend for 6 months, and we knew that we wanted to have a future together, and there's just that whole fear too that I was going to become a different person, and of course all of the psychology courses that I took didn't help. So I just didn't want to do anything, and my parents really took that role of meeting with the doctors and reading as to I didn't really have much choice as to the approach they would take for the surgery, but at least they knew what was in store, and I just wanted nothing to do with that. So yeah, at that point, I was very open to asking for help from them.
Okay. Yes. We'll end up going to commercial, just our first commercial break, and then we'll come back. But I want to share with people that this is an interesting point about sometimes letting people know that you don't want to know is actually asking for help. That is so interesting. So everybody, when we come back, we're going to continue on here with Susannah Juteau from Light on Living here, but from the chapter, What's Balance Got to Do with It?
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hi, this is David Strickle. I'm excited to share my brand new show, The Stream of David Live, right here on OMTimes Radio. Each week I'll have exciting guests, and I'll channel the eternal wisdom of the stream, a group of non-physical entities whose teachings have transformed lives all over the world. So join us for an uplifting hour each Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's The Stream of David Live right here on OMTimes Radio.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back, everyone. All right, we are continuing on here. We're hearing from one of the co-authors in What's Balance Got to Do with It, Susannah Juteau. And this is a big one for many reasons. The key word here being migraines. Second keyword, nutrition. And then, of course, my phrase that is about asking for help and just trying to, be okay with where you are and get to a better place. And so, Susannah, we're just going to keep on trucking here with this. And here you are. You've got some great people that's helping you, your parents and your now fiance, because now we're moving along in the story. He's now your fiance. And did you hold on to, what got you through the pain of it more? Was it future thinking, or was it just being in the moment?
So what got me through that initial part of the upcoming surgery was knowing that surgery should make everything go away. So as much as I was scared for the results or being on the operating table, I was told that that this will make all of your headaches go away, and there should be a 2-month recovery period, and then you'll be able to return to work like nothing before. And so I guess it was hope that got me through, and really just getting through. They booked the surgery pretty soon after finding the tumor, and then after surgery, I guess what got me through after surgery is also hope that it would eventually all go away, and that it was just a longer recovery period than they expected. It just ended up being much longer than they expected.
Okay, and that's a big one. That actually is a big one, because you really felt like you had been given this, quote unquote, like a promise or like a guarantee that this is the route to go, this is the time, life will be back to normal kind of thing, as best it can be, and you could just go on your merry way. And now that we're kind of feeling this, that was not so much the case. And so what were you, like you said, it was much longer, but what was it what was longer? What was the hardest part and the most painful?
So I didn't realize the extent of, and to my surgeon's defense, they didn't want to tell me just because it's different for every person. So especially as much as they knew the size of the tumor, they didn't realize that my facial nerve and my auditory nerve was wrapped around the tumor so many times that the surgery would be much longer than they expected. They ended up having to cut my auditory nerve, so I lost hearing in my left ear. My facial nerve was quite damaged, so I had partial face paralysis and still do. And then just the whole recovery period that was supposed to be 2 months ended up being several years of constant migraines, and just trying to return to work, trying to be the person that I was before all of this. Right. And
I have a question about the ear. Did you lose the hearing in the same ear that the dog bite happened?
Oddly enough, yes.
Well, that was kind of good, maybe. I don't know. But I was thinking, okay, let's keep it on the one side there.
Everything is on the one side. That's the scar on my face is on the same side as where the facial paralysis is. And then as much as the dog bit off my ear, they were actually able to sew it back on, so you can't tell at all.
Oh, okay. Sorry. See, I didn't know.
Great job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with this, and it was a lot more, like you said, that it was a lot more months, but here we are with these headaches. And even I would be like, well, wait a second. No. We've done everything. The brain tumor's gone. Mm-hmm. I've done what I'm supposed to do. Was there, were you thinking, where did you start along that journey of trying to figure this out? Because I will highlight, can you share about what the experience you had when you went on your honeymoon?
Yeah, sure. So the honeymoon was, it was 9 months later. So the first 5 months, I pretty much just had to sleep all the time. I was sleeping 20 hours a day, just to control the headaches, really. It was just constant. And then I couldn't, lights would trigger it, sounds would trigger it. I mean, everything kind of set things off. And then I made the attempt to go back to work. There's a whole, problems with insurance of them forcing you to go back to work. And when I went back to work, just part-time, the migraines just got tenfold, and I couldn't function again and had to, it was like you return to work, you can't function, then you go off for a bit, and then you think you can return to work again, and it was just this back and forth. And then so my surgery was at the beginning of July, and in May we went on our honeymoon to Vietnam, where, of course, there's just no stress. We are having fun, exploring, and with that no stress, the headaches subsided. I wouldn't say completely, but they were manageable with medications. And so I just knew that there was such a link to, one, nutrition, because in Vietnam they do not have desserts and, processed foods the same way they do here. And all of as much as you're eating out every day, their food was extremely healthy and very full of vegetables. And so it was partly nutrition, partly the stress and having as much sleep as I needed and not having to perform, I think was also a big piece of it, is not constantly having to pretend that I was better than I was. So, so the honeymoon just made me realize, like, okay, there is really a hope for my future, and now it's time to figure all that out and to go back to my education and go back to the neuroscience and the nutrition and really piece together what I could do to improve my own health. So that was kind of the trigger, if you will, to the path of figuring it out.
Yes. Yeah, I really want to highlight this. This is so huge. A lot of, I need to speak from this people, and I'm a holistic nutritionist by my trade, and I haven't practiced for a couple of years, but just just because you are. Once you are, I think you always are. Like, I'm obsessed with learning about food. And, but that, when you say that right there, and I really want the listeners to I'm sure they have, earlier you had mentioned it was the stress of performing, and then here you mentioned again it was like because you didn't have that stress of having to perform or pretend I was better than I was, and I was feeling that I was capable of being. And I just have I don't know if you've ever explored this question, but I'm going to jump into it. I have a lot of friends who have been in a high performance stress job. They've recognized it. They've left that position. So you would think, there's that stress is gone. However, now there's a fear of, what if I ever have to go back and do it again? And it almost becomes post-traumatic stress disorder type thing. Did you ever experience that when you were taking that time off just because you were able to? And then, did you have anxiety about going back and knowing that you were going to be stepping back into that position?
Absolutely. Once it was becoming time to come back home. So at least on the vacation, I was able to completely separate myself and just live in the moment and be very present. But then, the flights home and everything, you you're going back to the work that it just has added stress. And especially once I was able to piece those two together, that I was like, okay, well, it's the stress of work and just, we're all, in the end, we're all high achievers and want to accomplish a lot. Everyone has long to-do lists, and we're always trying to do more and be more. And it's that stress of just the daily life. It's the low grade constant stress, and then a work stress adds to that. But I think everyone, even if, no matter how much they love their job, and I absolutely loved my job, but it's that daily performance stress.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. I don't think I got that before. That you did love your job, actually. It wasn't like I hate my job.
I loved it. Yeah,
that's so key. Oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm throwing this in here. Did you experience at that time as well anything with the adrenals going on? Because first of all, sugar and diet would be, but did adrenal fatigue ever come up for you?
I'm not sure if I could. I mean, with fatigue, you can attribute it to many different things. So, yes. I mean, often with migraines, it's just chronic fatigue that's kind of goes right in line with that. So I'm not sure if I would ever say it was adrenal fatigue, but looking back, absolutely. It's just that constant state of stress. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the devil's stress, eh? Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've recognized, like, hey, I'm eating different food here. My diet's different. The stress difference, but you actually picked up on both of them, because I did let the Facebook viewers earlier know that we would be talking about diet and different ways of eating. I'm very excited to talk about that. But now, so when you came back, this is 10, 11 months, so not just shy of a year of the surgery itself. And did you have to confirm that you no longer had the brain tumor? Did you ever go back and have some kind of way of knowing that, yes, we've removed it, it's no longer there?
It will actually always be there. It's just the vast majority of it has been removed. so they weren't able to get the whole thing just because because of the nerves and especially the facial nerve. They didn't want to have to cut the facial nerve. So it's always there, and I'm supposed to have an MRI every year just to make sure that it's not growing. If it grows again, they'll catch it at an earlier stage, because when there's quite a few people that have, small brain tumors, but it doesn't affect their lives, and it's just, this tumor as well is benign, but the big problem with it was that it was pressing on my brainstem, and because of the size of it. But anyone who has a brain tumor, usually it's like, the size of a pea, and it doesn't affect anyone's life. And that's why they don't give MRIs unless there's a really red flag reason. Because if someone sees that they have a small brain tumor like that, then all of a sudden there's that fear and a stress that you think that all fatigue is due to that, when really having a surgery, as in my case, it doesn't actually repair anything. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so interesting. And I would never have a brain tumor story to share and vice versa to this, but interestingly enough, just about 2 weeks ago, my cat just suddenly was having seizures. And so, the question was, do we find out if, she's got epilepsy or does she have a brain tumor? And I thought, well, in the end of it, she's not older, but she's old, she's 10. And I thought, she might have had that brain tumor forever, and something just happened, maybe heated, maybe fatigue, all these things. So, it's very interesting to learn about. I found that so fascinating that you said a lot of people actually do have these brain tumors, and then we never know what to not blame it on, but cause reason to, was the fatigue this, or was this? And so here you are thinking, okay, well, I love my life. I've got a fabulous husband. I adore him. My parents are awesome. And I got my job, or maybe you had a career change. We'll find out. And then you start diving to how can I improve my life? Did you look at it how can I improve the environment of my life, or did you just know it's diet and stress?
So at that time, I definitely focused more on the diet and stress, because those were the tools that I had at the time. Yes. Now looking back, there could have been a lot more work on the mindset aspect of things, because definitely in the last 2 to 3 years, I've really just embraced the power of connecting with others and sharing your story, and just looking at what is the benefit of things, and just being really grateful for what you do have. And I don't know, it's connecting to people in a different way, rather than I was really, especially in that first year of recovery, I was really in a place where playing the victim is probably the best way to say it, is saying okay, I've gone through this brain surgery, and still, so-and-so only visited me once, or no one brought me any food, or, just playing that card that, oh, look, I'm so sick, and still only, 10 of 15 friends or something came to visit. And
a worthiness kind of
thing.
It's so
easy. Yeah, it's so easy to go into those darker places, especially when you're dealing with constant headaches and, sleeping 20 hours a day, is that you feel like you'll never go back to that person that you were. And so you just kind of blame everyone around you.
Right.
So that was that was the biggest struggle, probably.
That blame is so big, because once you're isolating yourself when you blame others. And here you are, only have 4 hours a day to kind of process everything, because you're sleeping the rest of the 20. And I know that a lot of people can do that too. They start, when they're just not sure what to do, they do blame the others. It just feels like it can't be me. These people are doing this. So you do feel alone. And when you asking for help, because I want to just thread this through, when it comes to asking for help at that time, did you ask for somebody to help you with diet, or did you just go it on your own?
With diet, I definitely did it on my own, because of my own training. And if anything, it was a pride thing that I couldn't, why would I ask someone when I have my own knowledge? But yeah, looking back, I would have asked for so much more help. Even with friends, people will check in and say, hey, how are things doing? And I would always, put up another performance. It's like, yeah, I did great. I walked down the street today, or sure, nothing's a problem, but come visit me whenever you get a chance. And everyone just had this sense that everything was going amazing. I don't think anyone had an impression of anything else. Meanwhile, my thoughts were kind of in a turmoil. And looking back, it's just so easy to, or maybe it's not easy, but looking in hindsight, it would have been easy to just tell them, like, hey, I'm having a hard day. I'd love to, talk to you on the phone, or when you have a chance, just come sit with me and read a book beside me. Or when people did visit, I wouldn't tell them, that my brain could only handle 10 minutes of chatter, and then the rest of the time I'd love for you to just sit next to me. So I had a real hard time saying what I needed. And it was actually a director of mine who did suffer from a concussion a year after my surgery that I realized, like, she had someone in charge of her visits. So the visits, she'd never have more than one visit a day. They were told ahead of time, like, your visit should only be 20 minutes. Here's a few things if you'd like to bring a present. Actually, she'd love some tea. Or it was just much more, like, helpful, I guess. Whereas for me, I'd just pretend and say, oh, yeah, like, try to put up a performance for the hour visit, and then just crash afterwards and not be able to do anything for the entire rest of the day. So in looking back, we can definitely ask for what we need. And there's a way to do that.
And asking for one person help us recognize or even know, like a counsel for us. And I know we have to slip away to our final commercial break, but just when we come back, we will be talking specifically about how you use nutrition to, I'm wondering, end these headaches or really get a handle on them, but really change your life drastically through diet. So guys, come back because we're going to be finding out more about nutrition and headaches.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
As I'm sure you know, it is time to celebrate self-discovery and personal growth. But your efforts have to be consistent in order to stay balanced and to overcome depression and fears. So, what new books are available? How do you stay centered? Elizabeth Joyce and her guests will help you find out. That's Elizabeth Joyce on Let's Find Out, Mondays at 6 p.m. on OMTimes Radio.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. You're here with Light on Living with myself, Lisa Berry, and my guest, Susannah Juteau, is a co-author in What's Balance Got to Do with It. And Heather Andrews is just one of those people that when she compiles and all the stories and all these beautiful authors, and she creates so many incredible anthologies, she's looking for the story that's going to be inspiring to others. And she's also looking for when that person tells their story, that what really comes through is this, not just transformation, but a place where they've gone from needing something, needing to better themselves, coming out of a healing, making a better life, writing their own story, and then they do share it. So I'm so happy to be able to be here with you, Susannah, and hear your story and let others hear your story and more about it. And yours in particular, which was, having a brain tumor, having the surgery, but still suffering from these migraines that were relentless, and you finding out that diet and stress and mindset. And so I would love for you to speak to the piece of diet right now, because that's something that a lot of us, forget even just headaches and migraines. We have so many things with it. So love to hear your piece on this.
Okay, yes. So diet is just such a huge piece of healing, and we don't give it enough credit because we eat all day, and we always have people we can refer to who have a horrible diet and are extremely healthy. So it's so easy to compare to others and say, well, I'm eating so much better than them, I'm doing a great job. When really, as a whole, most of us can improve our nutrition. And so for me, I also had that huge bias, especially working with people as a dietitian, where I'd meet individually with people. I ran group programs and just saw how poorly people ate. And so in comparison, I was eating magnificently, like lots of vegetables, very balanced diet, lots of variety. And so it really took kind of more of some self-reflection and looking inward and saying, I can still do better and I can improve my nutrition, and this will make a huge difference for my headaches. And so just adding even more vegetables was huge for me. Being a bit more plant-based was a big difference. And then through those two things especially, and making sure I had way more fiber than the recommended amount as well. So increasing my fiber slowly until I was much higher than the 28 grams that are recommended a day. So that overall just really made a difference, where I had control of my headaches again. So I was on medication, but I actually had control of my headaches at this point, once I really focused on my nutrition and tried to control my stress too. And
did you find that while you had control over them, at least, do you know what still did trigger them at the time? Like if you didn't get enough sleep, or if you were stressed about something, or you ate something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So any day that I didn't eat well, maybe Christmas time, or there's an event or some party or anything, that would absolutely, like, the food hangover type thing is real, where you get headaches from that. Anything, if I ever even, at that point especially, I couldn't handle any alcohol at all. So if I tried to push myself and have one drink, then that would kind of set it off. But it was an overflow of many combinations at once that would really, then medication couldn't help. So if my sleep was off, my stress was off, I really had to have a fine balance overall.
There's the balance.
And then I could have control. And that was just a really amazing feeling, is to have control of my headaches rather than my headaches having control over me.
Yes.
But there was still this other level. For me, I just didn't want to be on medications. Medications made me feel drowsy. It made me feel like there must be a solution out there where I can get off these medications. I didn't want to be on them for the rest of my life. We're starting a family and everything. And it was just kind of always that subconscious that I was like, you forget to take your medication one day, or you go on a weekend trip and you forgot your medication and you suffer through that whole weekend because you didn't take it at the exact right time of the day. And so to me, that just wasn't a way that I wanted to live. So I kept searching further. And soon after we moved to California, so my second daughter was just born when my husband got a job offer to move here. And so we said that we'd move here for a few years. And at that time, I had a lot of clients and friends asking me about intermittent fasting, and as a dietitian, we didn't learn about that in school because it's a fairly new not phenomenon, but new in popularity anyways. And yes. As people kept asking me, I said, okay, well, it's really my responsibility to go into the research and make my own conclusions rather than just saying, no, we should be eating every 3 to 4 hours, especially for headaches. That's very common recommendation is to eat often. So as I was on mat leave and I was able to take time to really look into the research and just found it so compelling, and the evidence around fasting and decreasing inflammation, improving gut health, improving the neurons and the connection between the neurons, and just that state of ketosis instead of having to rely on glucose all the time. I was like, okay, well, there's no reason why I shouldn't apply this to my own life. And that's what really changed things, is with therapeutic fasting, which is just longer periods of fasting, rather than most people follow a 16-8 protocol where they're fasting for 16 hours and eating in an 8-hour window, or another very popular version is OMAD, which is a 1 meal a day and 1 snack a day, but eating in a 4-hour period. So those are two very popular forms of intermittent fasting, but therapeutic fasting is actually going for a longer period but less often. And that's where I found the golden spot for me is I was able to get off all of my medications within 8 weeks with a fasting protocol, because it's healing the body and giving my body time for that gut rest where it can focus on healing instead of focusing on digestion. And
just to let the listeners know this, because I knew about them and I knew the way, but I love that it's called therapeutic fasting. It makes me actually even it's a friendlier name, right? And there's a result. And so when I was reading about that, and I love that you shared that you picked your 2 days a week that you would do this. And I like that. I thought, makes people who, maybe a little bit, apprehensive or cautious or not wanting to, like, okay, well, 2 days a week. Did you find it hard going for these 2 days, or even if, say, somebody does 3 days? I don't know if they can do 3 days, if that's still therapeutic. But if they do it for this long, is it weird then to go into an eating day?
No, not at all, because just so much comes around food. And so the way that it works is there's actually no day that you're not eating. So with the 24-hour fasting twice a week is that you go for instance, for me, it's every Monday and Thursday that I would have a 24-hour period of fasting. So it's from supper on Sunday. So if I finish eating supper on Sunday at 6 p.m., then I go till supper on Monday at 6 p.m. So I never miss a meal with my family, which was really important to me. And then the same thing happens on Thursday. And because of the flexibility of it all, is that I could easily do Tuesday and Friday if something was happening on a Monday. Or, there's that flexibility of changing the days as well to accommodate just what you're doing in life. So there's actually much more flexibility than some of the other typical, much more popular fasting protocols. But because of the longer period.
Right. Yeah. I find this fascinating because, sometimes, you may find yourself, you say somebody has breakfast in the morning and they go out and they get into their day, but then it gets really busy and then they had to skip lunch because it just got busy. And then sometimes you just get past that point. You're like, I'm almost so hungry I can't even eat. And then if you could just hang in there and get it to the next, breakfast, basically, because I guess at that 24-hour, then you did it. And if you just go to bed, is there any benefit? Do you have any tips for people who are really uncomfortable? Like just should you sleep a lot if you're trying to fast? If you think oh my gosh, I'm just not going to be able to do it,
Yeah, so there's this common misconception that we won't have energy when we're fasting, but it's actually the opposite that happens, because we get into ketosis, which is just a different form of fuel for our brain. And our brain actually really loves ketones. More energy is released per ketone than per glucose molecule. And if we think back even 100 years ago, we used to have much longer periods of fasting where at least there'd be a 12-hour fast during the day, because when it was dark out, we'd stop eating. And it's really a more common, more like in the past 100 years that we've changed that, where we start eating and continue eating once it's dark out. So even this is just following our circadian rhythms. So I always tell people to just start with 12 hours. And 12 hours of, like, to stop when it gets dark out and then going to the next morning. So that can be just 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's really easy. And then once everyone realizes that, oh, okay, well, I don't need to rely on glucose every, second of the day, and just allowing our body's time to heal and do some of the repair. So what happens with longer periods of fasting is that you get into a phase called autophagy, where it's cellular repair and cleanup and detoxifying. So the cells are able to take that time to get rid of things that aren't working for them, rather than trying to digest glucose all the time. So it's just giving our bodies a break.
And that's what your body really responded well to, is like, just give me a break. I need a break from this so I can go up and let my body do its natural thing. And I just find that this is so interesting. And I feel like there is a piece of the mindset and the attitude and support along with any kind of diet change. And is this something that you offer? Is this something that do people hire you as a coach? Okay. Can you share this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I find it's really important when you're trying to make changes, especially dietary changes. It's the accountability piece that actually makes the biggest difference. So when you're working with someone for a longer period of time, it's like that check-in each week, and that's how we create change, because there's a lot of evidence showing that habits take 66 days or more for them to really become a part of your life. Yes. So I do work with people, and typically for a longer period of time of either 4 to 6 months. That way we're really kind of making these changes slowly and supporting them along the way. And just before anyone even thinks of incorporating fasting, the diet has to be maximized first. Otherwise, it can be very unhealthy and even dangerous. So what's always first is to look at the micronutrient intake, making sure that everyone is reaching their needs first, and just looking at the diet as a whole first. And something like a 12-hour fast, that will never be dangerous. So starting there, but then anyone who wants to kind of incorporate some of those longer fasting, I always recommend that they work with someone first to maximize their diet, because the diet still is primary.
I have to agree with you. 100%. I'm just in love with eating clean. I feel great. And so it's like, I'm addicted to it. So I want everybody to feel that way, but I know the support that's needed. And so and also too, I have to tell you, when you gave me your email, I thought it was the best email address ever. So please share that with everybody, because it's perfect.
Okay. Well, my email address is Susannah@headachenutritionist.com. But since most people don't know how to spell Susannah, I just info@headachenutritionist.com. And you can also find me on all the platforms at Headache Nutritionist, because that is my main passion, is helping people go through all the steps that I went through, because I know the extreme pain that comes with dealing with migraines on a frequent basis, or chronic headaches, or all of those things that all come down to basically the same pathway, and nutrition and stress relief and the fasting overall, just that those three, well, with sleep as well. But that's what really makes the difference in the long run.
Absolutely. I could almost just sit and talk about this all day, between, hormones and hydration and sleep, but nutrients are key, and stress, like you said. I just love these things. So somebody, please, if you are you know somebody suffering from migraine, info at migraine. Oh my gosh, headache nutritionist, not migraine. I'm stuck on migraines. Headache nutritionist. And there's no L in nutritionist, everybody. It's nutritionist. So, and if you need help, you can also ask me, Lisa Berry, how to get in touch with Susannah, because she is one of our co-authors in What's Balance Got to Do with It. You can always pick up the book on Amazon and you can read her chapter and really, follow the story and say, wow, yes, and all her info's there. But Susannah, I want to thank you so much for staying on with me for the full hour. We certainly needed it, so I'm so happy. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for this great conversation.
Oh, well, everybody, there's no need to have any head pains or headaches. So reach out to ask for help, and don't be afraid of this. If you're feeling overwhelmed, this is just reach out, and that's the starting point. So we'll get to everybody in 2 weeks from today, where we are going to go and delve into beyond the chapter of 2 more chapters in 2 weeks from today. So tune in, and thank you everybody for listening to Light on Living. I will talk to and see everybody soon. Bye, Susannah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.